I've been an art teacher for about 20 years. Not 20 years. Except for a few years in Guatemala, where I picked coffee beans. And except for about a decade working at the prestigious ladies' footwear shop, Kate Spade. But besides those years, about 20 years, minus those years, so maybe whatever that is. And I've learned that there's so much to learn about art.
If I draw a circle, an egg-like circle, whatever, if we draw a circle, no. If we draw this on the board, we ask someone, what is this? They will, what's the first thing they will say? Maybe that's too much to talk about. Maybe these kind of shapes are next level. Maybe we don't need to reach that. Maybe we can't reach that right now. And by we, I mean me. Maybe that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm still learning. I learn every day. I'm learning, when my students, put something in my coffee, and I wake up a few days later and don't have any clothes or money. That's art. And I come back in, the following month after I find my passport and I've gotten out of jail, and I say thank you guys for teaching me something new about art. And they are always very, very happy. To the point of even laughing. I mean, they're laughing. They're so happy they're laughing because we're sharing. We're sharing. Teacher, student. It's only something that you would understand if you were a teacher. If you were a teacher and you had students.
If we're talking about visual art, I think this is what happens. Here's wherever it starts. Here's art. The visual is only this little palm tree off the top. This is, maybe that's better like that. And this little, people would say it's an island. It's not an island.
What I really like about working with different children from different backgrounds is that I see myself in them. That little Chinese boy in the countryside growing up with an ox and a cart, and pulling big bushels of rice through the mud with the ox, and the cart is muddy, but it's a beautiful countryside, but it's still a muddy cart, and the ox is pushing, and the rice is busheled together. That was not in my life at all, but I feel like I could have had that life if I were him. And that's a connection that you don't really get in other jobs.
Well, I mean, it's an island, depending on your perspective. It's not an island. It's much deeper. In fact, it is this. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the tree. And there's your island. But this line doesn't exist.
You know, this is more than a job. This is a way for my spirit to just come out and just be and fly around me and see my spirit. And I say, oh, there was an ox and there was a boy and a cart and mud and mountains and Chinese people around me. I could have been that person. The spirit's out. You could have been that person. I know I could have been that person. That is what is so great. Sometimes that happens in class. The spirit comes out and they're flying around me, and the children are often a bit confused. Granted, they haven't had the spirit come out of them yet, but when they get older and they start having those episodes, they can look back and say, I remember Mr. Art used to have that in class. I was confused. I'm also confused that I'm having them, but at least I saw someone already have that and it looked interesting. So yeah, that's one of the great things about being a teacher. It's true, I did change my name to Mr. Art because I wanted to fully immerse myself in the art. People say, why is your name Mr. Art? I say, why isn't your name Mr. History? Why isn't your name Mr. Geography, Mr. Math, Mr. Science? Mr. Science, that's a cool name.
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to you.
There's an old antidote of the Michelangelo in Italian, went to visit the Pope, and the Pope was trying to see if he was a true genius, and he asked him to draw a perfect circle, and Michelangelo drew a perfect circle, and now I always, with my students, the first day of class, we always draw a perfect circle on the first day. So right away, on the first day, my students are at that level, that Michelangelo Pope level. So if the Pope ever comes into our classroom, you will see a lot of students just drawing perfect circles. So I'm hoping that the Pope comes in soon and sees just all of these little geniuses. Perfect circle every time. Another perfect circle. Just every time, perfect circle. It's just part of my art pedagogy.
Let's just to the point. Art is a spaceship. It's not necessarily the ship. And we don't need to go all the way back to the beginning. We could, I guess, but not with me speaking about it. And then, art is just coming. It's coming through space. Art is the spaceship, or we are the spaceship. And what are these blocks? What are these blocks? These meteorites that get in its way. Well, it's the friction. It is the difference, which it would call itself. Let's say it's not art. So what is outside of it? What could possibly be outside of art if we want to understand what art is?
People often ask me, what is art? Art has no shape. It has no form. Art, it's limitless. It's limitless. It's truly limitless. But there's really, I mean, this is art. This is art. Here. This is art. Both of these things are art. Everything, almost everything, and so many things are art. This is art. This is art here. Body art. Oh. Whoa, that is. You see this?
I know you're just standing there in this caught pose, but you know what? I'm not any different. And you might feel less covered than me, but I would say I'm just as exposed. And that is art. Through visual, but beyond visual.
This is art. It's just your fingers, but it's art. Feel it. I can feel the art through my fingers. Ooh. 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 The art rises up.
What's funny is there are some people who try to teach art. I mean, it's good. The attempt is admirable, but one wonders, can you teach art? Are we really just learning this? But this is it. This is it here. We're just learning around here. Perhaps the more we learn, we even form this core that gets harder and harder. I don't know if it's cracking or not, but whatever. It's just a hard core that gets thicker with every layer of taught art knowledge. Meanwhile, it's in here. That was the whole point of bringing art into education or whatnot in the first place.
I commonly get asked by many of my followers, many of my fans, is Dirk, when did you first take up art? And I like to use what a bit of a metaphorical way of answering that question. I answer that question with another question. I like to ask them, when does a falcon become a falcon? I mean, when does a falcon know that it's a falcon? Some people might say, oh, when it first takes flight, maybe it will know. Or maybe at its first, caca, caca, soaring majestically through the atmosphere. Maybe that's when the falcon knows it's a falcon. But here's where it gets tricky. The falcon always was a falcon.
How one comes to art. I wonder if we could talk. If we spoke of some language, could someone come to the language? How did you come to Spanish? How did you come to speaking Spanish? I guess it's exposure. But with art, it's how are you not exposed to art? You know? You start off by coming through a vagina.
You can put two pieces of art together. This, rising up through the hole. Art is often like a hole. You rise up through the hole. And then that's art. So, hello, art. Hello, Mr. Art. Good to see you again. It's good to see you too, Art. It's been such a long time since we hung out. Well, I've been kind of had some block on my creativity side, so yes, you don't really make art anymore. Don't talk to me about not making art. Sometimes art likes to talk back to you.
It's like an everyday occurrence. I don't know, or maybe art was part of education.
I'm so thankful that I wasn't really hurt in that specific occasion. There's really no right or wrong answer for what is art, what isn't art. Anybody can be right about what they think art is. They might say, this isn't art, and I might say that is art, and if they said that isn't art, then they'd be wrong.
It reminds me of people talking about luck. But really the person, really you asking for art, you are art. Even in your asking, even if your words make no sense to outside listeners. There was no coming to art. Art was just from the beginning.
There was no beginning. There was no, I'm art. I always have been an artist. I always have been the falcon.
How did you come to art?